Welcome to yet another episode of Indigenization Appreciation Hour. This one is going to be in the old format because my associate Sriram Tyagarajan is on holiday. Blessed are those who can go on holidays. So do join in with your questions and comments, and I'll answer them as I used to earlier, one by one, obviously. So, and today's episode is, of course, going to be focused on the India-Pakistan military balance, as it were. We'll also look at a few, look at India's options, and we'll also examine a bit about, Pakistan's ability to do anything for that matter. Okay, so we have some questions coming in already. So Arjun Kapoor says hi. Hi back to you. Kappa is asking, Saurav, do you think India has enough artillery to afford a conflict with Pakistan? Yes, it does, I think. We almost have now about 1,000 units of 155 millimeter caliber 155 millimeter caliber artillery, available. If you take into account the legacy Bofo's inventory, of which, I think now most are operable or serviceable because of the work that went into the Dhanush project. Then there is the Dhanush. Then there is the upgunned, the Sharang, which is an upgunned M40, M46, Soviet era M46, but upgunned to 155 millimeter 45 caliber. Then, of course, you have those 100 Vajra, K9 Vajra Ts. You have 145 of those M777s. Of course, most of those are meant for the other sort of frontier. So you have a fair amount of 155 millimeter, artillery available now. A large pool, as it were. And on top of that, you also have all the other calibers that are there. And of course, remember about 180 of those M46s were upgraded by the Israelis also to 155 millimeter standard. So I would say all in all, there are between 900 to 1,000 155 millimeter artillery units available at any time now. And this number will, of course, go up quite a bit in the years to come, but we are talking about now. And on top of that, the most important thing, of course, is both our shell production, 155 millimeter shell production, and charge production. Whether it be ball charges, legacy ball charges, ball back charges, or bimodular charge systems, is now considerable. It's actually a lot. And this is one area in which we've had surge capacity for a while. So we can sustain a conflict. Our barrel production rates are also significant. So, even if those barrels wear out, we can sort of replace them. After all, every barrel has a charge, has a life sort of described by the number of effective full charges it can fire before it sort of wears out. So I think we can replace the barrels as well. On top of that, we have enough shells and enough, and various types of shells and charges for all the other artillery systems in our inventory also. I'm talking about, the old, the M46 130 millimeters, which have not been upgraded. The D30 howitzers are still serviceable. Those are 122 millimeter. We also have, a whole thousands, over 2,000, I think, 105 millimeter artillery at our disposal as well. So yes, there's enough artillery for a conflict with Pakistan, in my view. Okay. Chirayu Parak says, hi, Saurav, few questions, if can. Okay, I will come to that. Acha. Somebody saying, आवाज बहुत low है, sir. अच्छा, आवाज अब ठीक है? इसको घुमा देते हैं. I think this should do the trick. So what's the sound like now? I hope it's fine. Yeah. Okay. So let's go with this. What else is there? Can you hear me now? I think they can. Or did you miss that whole part? 1 second. I'll come back to it at the end of the program. Voice went further down. This thing is usually reliable. I don't know why it's not working properly. 1 second. So, Volume is soft. What about now? Is the volume better now? Hello? It should be though. Can you hear me? Better? Better. Okay, better. Fine. Let's go back to this program. A little better. Little better. Okay, I'll bring this right up to my mouth. How's this? Is this better? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Good now. Good. Somebody's calling me at this hour. I obviously can't take the call. So that's fine. Okay. Fine. Let me go back to the question session then. I don't know. This thing usually works well. Okay. Is kinetic action delayed because of the ALH issue? No, it isn't, in a word. Arjun Kapoor asks, please give an assessment of all trade and IWT measures taken against Pak till now. The assessment, you know this, right? We've already, so we withdrew our unilateral MFN status to Pakistan in 2019. And we've taken a whole bunch of measures which basically brings bilateral trade to zero through overt channels, certainly. And we are trying to block, covert channels as well now, which includes rebadging and rerouting via some entrepot trading center and stuff like that. Because I think you must have seen an Al Jazeera article talking about how Indo-Pak trade might be to the tune of $10 billion. If you take into account informal trade, which is not accounted for. But I guess there are now measures being taken to clamp down on that as well. As far as the IWT is concerned, you can't really dry up Pakistan's discharge at the moment till you have a whole bunch of new projects come online. Some 4,000 megawatt E of new hydel capacity is supposed to come up on rivers and tributaries that are covered, that used to be under the ambit of the Indus Water Treaty. So those will take years to sort of come online. But of course, you can alter the flow a little bit even now, but not by that much. Although you can cause, flash floods and stuff like that. But I don't think that is what is, something that is not how we operate. Now, not how India operates as a country, if you ask me. Okay. Chirayu Parikh, how many tells does Pakistan have the moment? So at Delhi Defense Review, we've actually tried to make an assessment of this, but I don't think it's that many also. I mean, it's not like in the hundreds or anything. So, some dozens perhaps, I would say. That's how many. Okay. Mark Osa says, Navy action this time, Saurav. Let's see what happens. The Navy, after all, it is in the naval domain that the maximum asymmetry exists between India and Pakistan, and the asymmetry is heavily in India's favor. So, and as you know, a lot of reportages happen, but I've said this in the past also. At any given time, they have at best 2 of those 5 Agostas operational. 3 of those are in any case second-hand Agosta 70s, and 2 are of course Agosta 90s. But and as far as the Type 039s are concerned, I don't think they've been delivered yet, or at least not to my knowledge. Okay, next question. Arjun Kapoor asks, please reflect on RM's statement on encouraging indigenous aero engines. Well, it's well past time, don't you think, that this became a sort of a national paradigm, a national sort of a national mission. It should be a national mission to become capable in the realm of aero propulsion, because that is the deepest of deep tech. There is no deeper tech than jet engine, than air breathing propulsion. There's no deeper tech than that. And it is time that India became capable in that. And such statements have to be backed by suitable investments. First of all, you need to create the testing infrastructure. You need to create the right kind of manufacturing units as well. Specific manufacturing facilities that we've talked about, like the 20,000 ton isothermal press and the 50,000 plus closed die forging press. So all of those need to be sort of in place. You need all those testing facilities. You need a high altitude engine test facility. You need a much larger turbine test facilities. right? You need flying test beds, you need all of those things, and those things will cost money. But this is the time to invest. In fact, it's long past the time. It's not long past, but yeah, we are already running pretty late. It's now time to bite the bullet and do it this year itself. There can be no question of it. Kumar Mangalam Lambodia asks, uh, when will Archer NG first flight take place? Well, I don't know. It was supposed to have taken place by now. I'm sure you'll hear about it because everything that leads up to that sort of leads up to a first flight was already done. In fact, we wrote an article on it in Delhi Defense Review. Let me just share it with you anyway. Just 1 second. I'll share the article with you. This is for those who haven't read it already, obviously. And those who have read it can read it again if they so please. So let me just share it with you over here. Yeah. So I shared it in the comment box. Right. So you can read all about it. Everything that, all the sort of preliminaries that lead up to a first flight have already been done actually. Let's see, maybe we'll hear some good news on that front. Circuit to Citadel asks, very less news on L77AD guns upgrade. 300 plus were upgraded by OFB, but as far as I know, L&T was in the race to upgrade the rest 700 to 800 guns. You mean L70, right? The Bofors L70. Yeah, about 200 plus were 200 plus were upgraded to begin with by AWEIL and all that. And yes, more might be upgraded, but of course, there is another. L&T has worked on the Sudarshan CIWS, and that's also sort of going to be inducted. And so there are a whole bunch of things. In fact, you're going to see some more sort of developments come to the fore in the CIWS sphere, including mobile system. M. Anirudh, hey Saurav, long time, how's your health? It's better now. It's better. I overcame the sort of the main illness that had happened to me into 2021. Of course, my father's passing did take a toll on me, and I did have a few health scares in the middle, but I've overcome those as well. I don't think I have any ailments at the moment, touch wood, by the grace of Jagannath. Chirayu Parekh asks, if this time the Navy is to strike, what are your thoughts on it? Would it be ship-based missile strike? Does that achieve the aim to neutralize terror camps based in POK? Okay, these are separate questions, right? So I can tell you this, that if the Navy were to strike, it will throw the kitchen sink at certain targets in Pakistan and also do certain things. Now let me just highlight something, flag something that I wanted to anyway. I'll just come to it just now. You know, there's been a lot of talk in the press about how the Pakistanis have moved their, the Pakistan Air Force, the Fizaliya, okay, yeah, the Fizaliya, has moved these Block 52, it's Block 52 plus F-16s to Pasni, right, which is on the coast near Gwadar. And sort of it has been analyzed that they've done so because the Americans don't want any of those to go down to an S400, to an S400 air defense system. But do keep in mind that the Block 52 Plus has the AN/APG-68 version 9 radar, which has SAR and ISAR, as in synthetic aperture radar and inverse synthetic aperture radar modes, and is actually compatible and can be made compatible with the AGM-84L Block 2 Harpoon air launch anti-ship missile, right? So, of course, the stores management system will have to be uploaded with new software. But AGM-84L can be carried on stores 3 and 7 of the F-16 Block 52 Plus. And of course, you need an interface adapter kit as well. And if you remember, in September 2022, the Americans cleared the sale of a whole bunch of support, under a whole bunch of things under a support and sustainment package for the F-16s in the Pakistan Air Force inventory, which included software upgrades and some other accessories and what was dubbed as accessories, both in the classified, both of a classified and unclassified nature. So the movement of Block 52 pluses to Pasni may not just be about sequestering them away or keeping them away from strategic SAM systems deployed by the Indian Air Force, like the S400. But they might have a naval element too. Of course, one thing could always be there, that they have deployed those because they want to sort of take on the Indian Navy's MiG-29Ks, in a sort of a DCA kind of a setup. And they could also, some of these might have even been modified for maritime strike. And this is something that, of course, our planners, I'm sure, are aware of, and I'm sure they'll keep in mind. Okay. So another question that is asked is, what is the next question? Kumar Mangaram Lamboria. F414 manufacturing deal by when? And the next gen engine deal by when? And will it be a 5th or 6th gen engine? Okay, so F414 manufacturing deal, license production deal, I think will be concluded this year. I see it happening. And the next gen engine deal will also be concluded this year. I see that happening too. So this circles back to the question that Arjun Kapoor asked earlier as to the ways in which I look at, as to how I look at the Raksha Mantri statement on aero engine development being a priority. Well, I see both of these being firmed up this year. Okay, 007 YMM asks, ground incursion should be off the table. FPV drones will cause havoc. See, we have a whole bunch of FPV drones now also, and more than they do, and we have fiber optic cable drones as well. Of course, the Chinese might be shipping those to them as well as we speak, but the thing is that we are also very well placed to blunt any quid pro quo plus by Pakistan. Let's put it that way. We should, whatever actions we take should be should be very carefully calibrated and very carefully targeted. After that, if Pakistan chooses to up the ante, Pakistan will find out this time just how many paddies are how many rice. Let me put it that way. Okay, Medal on 81. How much capacity do we have for Navy for surface-to-surface missiles? One would think CVG countries should have that. Well, we have a whole bunch of BrahMos-equipped ships now. And we have a bunch of Club ASCM anti-ship cruise missile equipped ships as well. We have still those legacy KH-35s are there as well. I think we are we have plenty of surface-to-surface missiles in the Navy. The sheer number of BrahMos inducted by the Navy is also not, something to be scoffed at. It's actually quite a large, the Navy too has a large inventory, if we may put it that way. Okay, Rakesh says, how come there were so many Pakistani people in India and how many are still hidden away? I think I have tweeted about this in the past, and people did not, I don't think people sort of, I won't say they didn't take it seriously, but I don't think it registered that much with people at the time, because, the talk is always about Bangladeshi illegals in India, etc., and all that because of the porous border. But I have said for the longest time that there are many Pakistani illegals resident in India. And these Pakistanis have not come in only via the visa route and then just stayed on or something. There are people who actually cross the border illegally and come in. And my thoughts on this subject were sparked off many, many years ago when I was in, a certain urban village in Delhi getting my phone fixed. And I heard a couple of people talking in a language which was not quite Punjabi. Okay. It was not Hindi, Hindustani, it was not Punjabi. Now I think it might have been Saraiki. Okay, so of course I'm not a linguist or a language expert, but anyway, but to my mind, I think it sounded something like that. It was not Baluchi or something. I've heard Baluchi speakers before. I knew a couple of people who were Hindu Balochis. They were not Sindhis settled in Baluch who had come over at the time of partition. They were Baluch. They were ethnic Baluch who were Hindus who had come over at the time of partition. So I'd spent some time with them. So I think I could have made out the difference there. So it might have been Saraiki for all you know. So, this is not something that was, and this was way back. I'm talking about 2015 or 16. 2015 perhaps. So there are several of them inside India. There are many. Diamond, are our UCAVs anywhere near operational status? Well, the UCAV has to be sanctioned first, right? If you're talking about what is called the RPSA now, that has to be sanctioned. The engine for that is, well, ready now. Dash Dubey. Sir, ANI has just reported that Pakistan currently has only 4 days worth of artillery ammo for a heavy conflict. So is this the best time for retaliation before the Chinese bring them supplies? Like I said, it's not about this or that. It's about doing something very specific that they cannot anticipate, and one that is going to cause them the maximum amount of pain. Now, the other day there was this whole talk of Turkish denial with respect to the C-130 that flew in from Turkey and stopped for a long time at Karachi before sort of flying off to Malaysia. And the Turkish Defense Ministry, although I don't believe them for believe them one bit. In fact, I think they are bigger liars than the Pakistanis. Claim that nothing, no supplies had been made or anything. That was, of course, entirely aimed at image management in India, because Turkey does have an economic stake in India. Turkish Airlines is a very important part of that economic state, and they don't want that harmed. They also don't want their tourism prospects damaged, given the mood in India and the fact that there seems to be an ever increasing flow of Indian tourists to Turkey. They need both of those things. So it was obviously aimed at damage control. The funny thing was, there were a whole bunch of accounts on Twitter that immediately were tagging me, saying Turkish Defense Ministry has denied it, and they all had and they were seemingly Indian handles, although I don't think they were. They were only masquerading as such. Anyway, so now the point is that, see, that C-130, if it did bring anything, I said that it likely brought, and I was not just referring to that particular flight. I was referring to to things in the past as well. They have been likely supplying Pakistan with things that are usable in an anti-armor role. And if that C-130 flight actually brought any artillery shells with it, it would have brought something like the LG-155, developed by Rocket Sun, which is a laser-guided round and which is useful in the anti-armor role. Because I'll tell you something, a typical 155 millimeter artillery shell weighs anything between 40 to 50 kgs, right? So a C-130 with its 19-ton max payload can theoretically carry at most a few hundred rounds, 400 to 500 rounds at most, or 155 millimeter artillery. And if that was an emergency shipment, I would be very surprised if it was just a shipment of unguided 155 millimeter artillery rounds, because 400 shells will not even last for a few hours, right? So it means nothing really. Those must have been guided rounds if they were indeed 155 millimeter artillery rounds. Probably something like the LG-155. Our people should take note. Okay, next question, Vivan Malhotra. Will the Defense Cyber Agency see any significant action if an actual war breaks out? How do you know it is not already seeing significant action? Abhijit Singh. How will Rafale M fit on the INS Vikrant and Vikramaditya's elevator? That is a story in itself, and we'll discuss that in some IH once it's here, once more of it is, sort of out there. But it will fit. Of course, a particular trick is used to make it fit. Saptarshi DG. Hi Saurav Jha, what is the future of the chicken neck corridor? Can we expand this area as Bangladesh keeps threatening us about this area with Chinese support? Chicken neck is secure as of now. And while the Bangladeshis in the past have done some very strange exercises aimed at the corridor from their territory, they are not really in a position to act in concert with the Chinese. And see, there is nothing guaranteed about borders in the 21st century, right? I mean, what is delaying the creation of testing infrastructure? Money, what else? There has to be money, the plans are all there. Arjun Kapoor, what is the scene with Russia? Why such ambivalence in giving India support for Pahalgam? Look, the Russians, we have a very clear relationship, an old relationship with the Russians. They are not going to say anything overtly. But be rest assured that our dealings with them are always underway, so to speak. But yes, I can tell you one thing. They are going to show somewhat of a balance between China and the China-Pak axis and India. After all, we've also shown that balance between them and Ukraine, right? Overtly. But that doesn't mean that all the stuff that goes on between Russia and India has stalled. Quite the opposite, actually. Ujjwal Sharma, sir, please do an episode on submarines. We will do that. Kumar Mangalam Lambodias, when do you think India will attack? Will it be long? Patience, my friend, patience. Let us not give the enemy any ideas whatsoever, because be rest assured they are watching this program with interest. And oh, by the way, when they do come out in force sledging DDR in India in the comment space, please do the needful. Okay. Madleon 81. Will we see better real-time satellite recon from us? We always seem to be shot dead. We are shot dead. There's absolutely no doubt. And the 50 plus satellites which have been sort of sanctioned as part of phase 3 of the space situational build-up should have been done 5-6 years ago. We need to really buck up over there. There's absolutely no doubt about it. We need something like 200, 300 birds in the sky, honestly, not just 50 more. And on top of that, we need formation flying satellites. See, this Hawkeye 360 kind of thing should be done, can be done domestically as well, right? Okay, for the time being, they bought it from America, but in the future, there will be domestic stuff which will be much better. Mark, one thing Pakis have done better than us is urban planning. The DHA townships and real sector is better. FSI restrictions have hurt us. Aesthetics matter. I agree with you, aesthetics matter. I've talked about this in that other Econ Salon program. So we'll have to see about it. Right, Arjun Kapoor says, Touchwood and Jai Jagannath. Jai Jagannath. Dhruv Raman Singh says, do you have some numbers of Astra Mark II available with IAF for our use? We have, well, you've seen what the reportage is. Let me just say that Astra Mark II, Astra Mark III, these things have all been put through developmental come user trials. Developmental come user trials. Right, so I'll leave it at that. Now with JF-17 having PL-15, it is very much needed. Meteor easily outranges JF-17. JF-17, sorry, PL-15, the PL-15E. The PL-15E that's been transferred has a range of 145 kilometers. Of course, if they've transferred the non-export version, that's a different thing. But then our Meteors, you know, if you give the max range of the PL-15E as 145, then I will say the max range of the Meteor is 200 plus. So we still have the first shot advantage. On top of that, remember we brought in a bunch of R77 variants and R27 variants also. Let's see for the Su-30 MKI and MiG-29. Anyway, Sandeep Mahapatra. Jai Jagannath Dada, Jai Jagannath to you as well. Sounds we are not going to do anything major on Pakistan, and mostly that's because of the unpredictable Pak response comment. Let's wait, let's be a little patient. Let's be a little patient. Arjun Kapoor. Abhijit Iyer Mitra keeps talking about the incompatibility of Barak S400 with our air assets. One of the reasons he quotes for the loss of the Mi-70. Please reflect on this. Complete nonsense. Both the S400 and the LRCM have been beautifully integrated into AFNet and into the IACCS architecture. And you will see that if any conflict breaks out. They are completely integrated. This thing was started by a bunch of RAND analysts, by the way. Now let me tell you something. They had actually written to DDR at that time. They had wanted to publish an article in DDR of all places that the S400 was that the Indian Air Force would struggle to integrate the Indian Air Force, the S400 into its sort of command and control setup. And they basically said the same kind of thing that you're talking about here. Of course, I refused to carry that article, unsurprisingly. Then they published it as on the RAND blog itself, and ever since you've been hearing stuff like this from certain quarters. Anyway, Arjun Kapoor, and that Mi-17 incident will not be repeated. Today, the network centricity is at a much better level than it was in 2019. Proper IFF systems are in place. Obviously, data links are in place. Very, very capable onboard EW systems are also available. Okay, circuit to Citadel. Pinaka not going to France. It's at early stage, but recent news on France developing MBRL hints something like this. Let's see what happens there. Sannivata, you skipped my question. Status of Kaveri afterburner by BrahMos, and did Godrej start delivering the dry version for testing? So Godrej is not integrating the Kaveri derivative engine, by the way. It is creating those 8 modules from a whole bunch of parts and components supplied by Indian industry. And of course, there are some imported content even now. They intend to go, there's probably over, the indigenous content levels are probably over 70% in that engine, and they want to go up further. So the engines, they will, the certain number of engines that they will, for which they will deliver modules, will be integrated at GTRE only. There's another tender that will come out for another round of engines for which an Indian industrial partner will be the lead integrator. But that is in the future. Anyway, so and the other question is afterburner. You mean by BrahMos Aerospace Tiruvananthapuram Limited? Oh, well, the new afterburner, a lot of work has been done on the afterburner section, and all the screech problem, etc., have all been solved. So there's no issue there really. Okay. 007 YM says France is definitely not buying Pinakas. Chirayu Parik says, first PM and now RM not attending Victory Day in Moscow. Is it due to Pahalgam, JD Vance's visit or something else? Your thoughts on this, please. No, it's because of the circumstances. I don't think they're going to visit anywhere for a while. Because see, we are at a time of extreme tension with our western neighbor. This is not a time when I think the head of government or senior cabinet functionary will be sort of moving around, unless of course it's the foreign minister who will sort of prepare world opinion in our favor. That's the person who you might see sort of traveling. Okay, Mark, a whole bunch of other questions. Let's see. One second, let me just. Okay, look, I missed it. Okay. As a Bengali, what's the future of Bengal? I took the Hazarduari Express to Lalgola last year, looked like an alien country out of the window. Well, nothing. I think sooner or later, Bengal will have to, come to terms with certain things. Let's keep it there. I think there are certain options on the table. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Kumar Mangalam Lamboria says you skipped a few questions here at the beginning. I'll circle back to them. Okay, Circuit to Citadel asks why armed forces are still giving peanuts orders, for example, 48 Vishorads, etc. Also, is the army making case to revive KA-228? I don't know about the come off 228 part because, as we have kept on saying at DDR, it should be the HAL's light utility helicopter, as simple as that. And as far as the Vishorads, this is like a LSP order basically. It's a typical order where you give it, then see how it goes, then you sort of give a bigger order later. But I think you'll see a bigger order later. Vishwajit Panda, should India join the GCAP program? No, it shouldn't. GCAP is dead on arrival, in my opinion. Ujjwal Sharma, some videos are showing American personnel in Bangladesh. What about it? Not surprising at all. That was the whole plan all along, isn't it? Arjun Kapoor says, it is really nice to see stuff cook in its own juices. Yeah. Kappa, sort of, even after so many conflicts or standoff, our procurement seems to be in a limbo. Do you think we are going to ever fix this 2025 year of reforms? This is the year when we might buck up actually because of because the world is in a churn. We might buck up. See, I'll tell you one thing. 2020, 2021 were, even 22 were years when the government did not want to do anything. Okay, they just wanted to get back to fiscal consolidation as soon as possible because of the pandemic. And therefore, you had a whole bunch of things getting delayed. But now we have to do it in double time to make up for 3 lost years. Actually more, but anyway. Arjun Kapoor, what is stalling the allocation of funds for testing infrastructure? Nothing. Now I don't think it can be stalled anymore. Earlier it was obviously fiscal prudence, but now it has to be done. Because not doing it is going to be fiscally imprudent for India within a 5 to 7 year period. Darsh Dubey, can we test our LRCM in the war if it happens and stretches long enough, if that LRCM is ready? No, you see, you've seen that 1,000-second combustor test, which is a world record, scramjet combustor test. And in that new facility, which is very important, which shows that we are serious about all this. That long-range hypersonic cruise or long-distance hypersonic cruise missile, that is something that has to be sanctioned and then developed, right? It doesn't, it's not something that's just lying around ready for being tested. Sene, any update on Tejas Mark 1A Asta trials? Well, we saw something, didn't we? I think you'll see more of it. And you'll see some very interesting things too. Kumar Mangalam Lamboria, what are the chances of Su-57 MRF? Is it going to be Rafales only? It's going to be Rafale versus Su-57, and as I had tweeted once, and I think Rafale is still the front runner. Especially, it all depends on who we sign that fifth or sixth generation engine co-development deal with. Abhijit Singh, is it true that IF is considering buying 40 Rafale off the shelf instead of 114 MRFA? I don't think so. I think it will be 114 MRFA only. I know there was some reportage about this, but I really don't see that as accurate. Mark Osas, comment on if it happens, then it will be very strange. Mark Osas, comment on recent Mark II picture leak, roll out sooner. Yeah, I think rollout will be pretty soon. That picture is quite old, if you ask me. Right. So I think you're going to see that pretty soon. I said that in a past sort of IH episode as well. Okay, by the way, let me just say something. Anybody who wants to show their support to DDR can do so, right, by sort of using the link which is there, the UPI link. You can happily use that, show your support, be as generous as you want to be, right? And you can send stuff directly there. All GST will be paid on it. So no worries on that count. I think, let me just share the link with you anyway, because, DDR could do with your support from time to time. Continuous support would be even better because we do take off time from our other stuff to do this program, as you can imagine. So, it would be great if you could also chip in a little bit, as it were. I'll just sort of put the link in the comment space here. Again, you can just, you can send your support directly. Send your support directly via that link. And you can, of course, send whatever you want on YouTube as well, directly via that link. Okay, let's go with more questions. Kumar, okay, Abhijit Singh, I've answered that. Mark Osas, I've answered that too. Kamal Verma, what is the artillery shell production capacity in private and OFB? Let's say a very high number now. Quite a very, very high number. Right? I won't give the exact one. I won't tell you the exact figure, but it's very high. It's nothing to be scoffed at. Arjun Kapoor, what is this fascination that the powers that we have to integrate a crocodile tunnel on the Zorawar? Why can't we make our own, considering the Arjun has been made here? Oh, there is an indigenous turret solution developed by ARD and CVRD together. I think a private sector major is the DCPP for that. And the crocodile tunnel, of course, was a quick fix. Crocodile tunnel turret, and it's sort of working very well on the platform. So, and you see, because the initial orders projected were for only 54 units. Now and they wanted it done double time in a span of they wanted development done in a span of just 24, 28 months or so. So then the only thing that seemed viable is to bring in an imported turret. But now, as things stand, it seems that the order for the Zorawar light tank will be in the high hundreds. So you'll soon see an indigenous turret. You'll see an indigenous turret replacing the sort of the crocodile turret. Of course, but crocodile has got into a license production agreement with somebody over here. So they are also sort of looking to preempt that. But we'll have to see at the indigenous content levels of the turret that they make over here. Mark, if war breaks out, what answer does India have for madrasa kids that can be mobilized as suicide bombers? This is, of course, something that our Foreign Collection Service has been working on for a long time. I think they are the ones who will provide us, who have already worked on a solution towards this. Let's see how effective it will be, and I think it will be effective. Dhruv Ravan Singh, is India missing the trick by not investing in self-propelled artillery, especially truck-mounted? It is relatively cheap but gives massive capability boost. So India is going to invest in that, right? 814 units of the 814 mounted gun systems will have to be inducted as part of the new field artillery rationalization plan, which is defined by a bunch of milestones. One of which is scheduled. One of which is sort of going to be crossed in 2027 itself, and there are projections out to 2040. So 300 of that VRD developed system that you see, which basically mounts the A tags on a BEML truck. That I think you will see 300 units of that being ordered in the next couple of years to begin with. So and you'll see more, obviously 100 more tracked K9 Vajra Ts are on order anyway, and you'll see maybe 100 more of those. And in the future, you could see a sort of an ATAGs based on an Arjun chassis also. That too is possible. Circuit to Citadel. Why first Zoho, now Adani pulling out from the semiconductor plan? Is it purely financial or cost census? And Pahalgam, like security risk, might have played bad PR. No, I don't think it's anything to do with caste census or Pahalgam or bad PR. I think it's financial. I think they're not getting the equipment on time. In that last Econ Salon sort of episode, I talked about how there is an informal embargo on India as far as being able to source certain types of equipment relevant to the manufacture of semiconductors of a certain node technology is concerned, right? So that is always there. So they are looking at the market. They must have looked at the market. It's probably not worth their while to get into this at the moment. I won't read anything else into it really. The trains and planes channel is crossing the LOC and capturing strategic heights to push LOC 15 by 25 kilometer feasible military response. In some sectors, yes, it is. Not 15, 25 kilometers, but less, yes, it is. You can capture enemy posts and you can hold on to them also. I won't say all along the LOC, in certain places. 007, but you will have to destroy their artillery units defending that sector before you do that. And you will also have to be ready to face an onslaught of FPV drones even as you go in. So you will have to jam, all the sort of command link guided FPV drones, radio frequency FPV drones. And you will have to sort of also be ready to face whatever fiber optic link FPV drones they are deploying. They will actually not be able to do the same along the LOC. We will break any localized counter offensives by them. I'm actually much more confident about what we can do today than I was back in 2019. So let me just say that. 007 YM says, I'm still blackpilled with the delay in indigenous ATGM's integration with LCH. I don't think there's any delay. I don't think there's any delay anymore. You see that yourself. Abhijat B. Does Pakistan have thermonuclear bombs? No, I don't think they do. They don't have the so-called hydrogen bomb or they don't have a two-stage implosion device or anything. They have fission weapons only. They might have some boosted fission weapons, as in fusion boosted fission weapons. We're using, tritium boosting. But remember one thing, okay? Tritium is not something that is just readily available, okay? It's actually one of the most rare sort of things in the world. It's actually much more of a constraint to the production and stockpiling of nuclear weapons than anything else is in some ways. Thermonuclear weapons, boosted fusion boosted fission weapons, etc. Okay, Vivan Malhotra. With the IF chief's criticism of HAL over critical aircraft delays, is India staring at a dangerous readiness gap? And could China explore this moment to open a two-front military pressure campaign? I don't think they are looking for a two-front campaign at this time. I think 2029 would be more their speed for the two-front campaign. But they do have a lot of unit formations in the field. I mean, there's no question of going back to there's a new equilibrium now, right? And it is an equilibrium which is not it is still a delicately poised equilibrium. So they've kept those guys in the field anyway to pressurize us, and especially in the northern sector. So even though they won't start a campaign, they will definitely be deployed in force along various stretches of the LAC. PJ, what do you think about our startup defense company can play a critical part in this war? Yes, they can, especially on the drone, on the IMINT, imagery intelligence side. Even DDR can. I want to introduce something to you guys, something we've been working on. DDR has developed a bespoke machine learning algorithm which can trawl over satellite images and detect targets automatically with a very high degree of confidence, as in over 90%, and all kinds of military targets of interest. So startups and even organizations like ours can play a critical part in this war. On the drone front, on the electronic warfare front, on many other areas they can. ISR front, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance front. Okay. Kumar Mangalam Lamboria, what's the latest output from Kaveri with afterburner? Heard there were some improvements. There are. You will soon hear of the tests that are sort of underway at GFRI, etc. That is, of course, for the KD, Kaveri derivative engine. Arjun Kapoor, what are the implications of the Americans in Bangladesh? What are they looking at? They're looking to create trouble, create that base that they always wanted in the northern Bay of Bengal, looking to create further leverage on India and on China also ultimately, on both. These two stans that were sort of cleaved away from India by the British were done with very clear objectives in mind. And as you know, the Anglo-Saxons sort of have a plan over a very long horizon, and they are very persistent. So both are, you can see the sort of statements coming from America about Pakistan also. I'm a close friend of India, I'm a close friend of Pakistan. You don't have to be a close friend of Pakistan and be a close friend of India to do what is right. But they won't do what is right. You see, they are going to use this time to play footsie because they want the trade deal to be settled on their terms, basically. They want don't put it past anybody using this whole sort of crisis as a pressure point on India for geo-economic to extract geo-economic concessions, which is why the stuff coming from America is of this variety. So that is what is going on at the moment, basically, right? So anyway, Kamal Verma, do you expect the fast tracking of any of the artillery modernization programs now due to this conflict? I think they'll all be fast tracked. I think a whole lot of things are going to be fast tracked again. See, each of these conflicts is leading to the emancipation of the military industrial sort of complex in India. First, you had 2019, right, in which sort of, things did not go, they went according to plan for the longest time, but then, of course, on the second day, things should have gone better. Then came this whole standoff with China, where a whole bunch of sort of gaps were clearly observable. So I think and the most important thing that people understood is you have to be prepared for these sort of drawn out localized conflicts also, as it were. So that will strain logistics, that will strain manpower, that will strain preparedness in general. So for that you need indigenization. And I think that message has sort of filtered down now, down the chain. And I think you're going to see the modernization, all kinds of modernization programs being hastened further. Kappa, some extra Super Sukhois are better than Rafales and more sensible. No, the Rafale brings to the table certain strengths, but the Sukhois have to be now upgraded without any further delay. There's no doubt about that either. Sandeep Mahapatra says, saw some pics of the Mark II assembling, looking at the Canat section. Was it really in public domain? Do you expect a rollout this year? I don't know whether it was in public domain to begin with or not, but now it is in the public domain per se, isn't it? So, do you expect a rollout this year? I do. I do expect a rollout this year. Arjun Kapoor, it seems the 26 Rafale contract is leading to a subsequent purchase of the same aircraft. Well, if you have to get in something under the MRFA route, this seems most sensible, but you have to get the source code from the French. They cannot now say that we won't give it. Too many are being bought for them to say no anymore. And they also have to agree to very high indigenous content levels as part of the license production program. Okay. The Trains and Plays channel asks, can you clarify whether the new jet engine deal with foreign OEM will be a 5th or 6th generation jet deal? I think they're looking at both. But who can bring what to the table as far as 6th gen is concerned is a little unclear at the moment. Fifth gen, it's quite clear. Vikas P, okay. Dhruv Raman Singh, sir, open channel membership so we can support monthly. Okay, we'll do that. Shoptorshi DJ asks, any news about our Desi second aircraft? Expected timeline? Are we collaborating with Raytheon for this project? I don't think we are collaborating with them anymore. I think there was a PIB release which clearly said that we are not working with the Americans on this anymore. If we've again gone back to the Americans, that is a different matter. But as far as I know, we are not. We are doing our own thing. And that was display. And that's why you saw a name change also. It's no longer called the iStar anymore. You can check DDR's channel for pictures of what it is called now. Atramentus Mindframe says, what exactly do we need in the engine code development? Is it certification and international standardized production methods? Because GTRE seems quite up there in R&D. Yeah, there's some R&D support also required, I think, for the high pressure turbine section, which is the main part that I think we'll need some support in. Manufacturing, of course, and international standardization, certification. Actually, GTRE can do it on its own also if you give it more time. But it's just to mitigate risk, it has been decided, and to sort of what is a typical Indianese to compress timelines, this foreign co-development partner is being sought, because they will bring their own supply chain along with them, right? And they will have to, of course, help develop the supply chain over here. Vikas P is, although a lot of the supply chain for fourth generation engines already exists in India now. For, it does really. Vikas P, is cold start doctrine still relevant? It is as relevant as you want it to be. But the thing is that we did not go down that route. This notion that we should have attacked them the very next day and done this seems to presuppose that that is what we wanted to do. That is not necessarily what is intended. Let's see what is intended. The train and planes channel. Will capturing strategic positions like Hajipir Pass or Skardu invite nuclear use by Pakistan? Hajipir, I don't think so. Skardu, well, yes, you are going deep into the territory then. Hajipir, I think, is probably one of those things that are doable without crossing a nuclear red line. Amit Kumar, should India go hammer on Pak? Let's see. Ajendra Yadav, how should India dissuade the Chinese from upping the ante at LSE in case of Indo-Pak conflict? Well, you already have the army in the field right now and the air force as well. So obviously you will have to, your deployments, you will have to maintain certain deployments over there to dissuade them from upping the ante. They don't gain either from upping the ante. See, they basically captured areas which were not defended at all during the summer of 2022, because at that time that whole that whole 14 Corps was basically struggling with COVID protocols as well. That is when they move forward, breaking long established CBMs and agreements. They broke that, right? They broke the 1993 and 96 and 2013 framework agreements. They broke those, but they can't do that again. They are not capable of some full-scale offensive against well-prepared, well-defended Indian positions. Not with their current sort of levels of training. Of course, if they stay in the field for the next 10 years and all, they'll become more capable. Chirayu Parekh 4. Pakistan conducted Abdali test today and looks like it was success. What do you make of it? The way I see it is they're shit scared and rattled all. It's part of the nuclear signaling, obviously. It is obviously part of the nuclear signaling. They are showing that their their missile-based deterrent is viable and is in a state of in some state of readiness. Anish, why are counterintelligence and cyber capability economic espionage is poor? I don't think our cyber capability is poor. I don't think it is poor at all. Counterintelligence, it's not poor, but it can be uneven at times. Economic espionage, most certainly is poor. There's no doubt about that. Our economic and our geo-economic espionage is quite poor. We just don't, because we are this country which always goes by what's been done on the dotted line, even when the other guys are sort of violating it, right? We follow that paradigm. So we are the good boy. So economic espionage has never really been on the table. But now I think, given that we are now in a sort of a global conflict, we are in an age of global dissonance that approximates to a new kind of global conflict. Given that we are in that age, uh, I think we will have to relook the way we do things. We cannot, and given that we are still being denied technology, we now have to be a little clear about how we are going to go about these things. Yash.pi says, thank you, Saurav, for doing this. Been following you for at least 9 years now. Shows like this are really underrated. I do share these streams with my defense enthusiast friends too. Thank you. Right. Thank you, Yash. Thank you for the support. Well, I think we are growing as a channel. DDR, of course, does a whole bunch of other things. DDR does not earn its keep by through its sort of, channel or whatever it publishes and all that. Those are things we do anyway. But I can tell you something, that if this channel grows and if there are more people watching this, then we will be able to sort of make the public understand how things stand, how they really stand. Like, we should neither be jingoistic or, bombastic, and nor should we be sort of diffident and pessimistic, overly pessimistic. The truth lies somewhere in the middle, and that is why I think what this channel sort of expostulates upon. Master Chief says, sir, any comment on the yield of our nuclear weapons? No comment. There's no point in commenting on that. Shoptoshi DG. Will India's Rafale Marine be upgraded with GAN ASA RBE2? GAN ASA RBE2. GAN. Will they have GAN units? No, let's see. I think they have the RBE2 ASA AA anyway, isn't it? That's gas based. Whether they'll have GAN in the future, can't comment. Arjun Kapoor. Handing over Kailash ranges seems to have been a blunder. Well, Mukpadi was handed over. The Mukpadi, the all-important peak. Now, why it was handed over is a question best answered by somebody else. Right? I think it should have been handed over as part of a larger deal, which would have seen full disengagement in Depsang at that time itself, not later. Atramentus, but anyway, what is done is done, what was done is done, and the reasons are best known to those who did it. Atramentus mind frame. Truck-mounted artillery seems to be the only deficiency. So what seems to be the issue with MGS? What does IA need from it before inducting large numbers of MGS? Nothing. It just goes through, it has to go through a process. It's still, developmental trials have to be completed, user trials have to be done. There's a whole process before anything is inducted. That is what you're seeing. It can be fast-tracked. That's what we need is a defense procurement organization, which will basically sort of streamline acquisitions and also fast-track processes or processes. 007 YMM asks, we need to follow the US when it comes to developing a robust ISR network and platforms is crucial. 100%. Mark, an economic question. India needs more banks, as in modern monetary theory banks created money of thin air. We need to get rid of outdated fiscal deficit myth. Park won't go bankrupt as we wish, re-US. Okay, I know this is not econ salon. First of all, any country, any government which has a compliant central bank, borrows in its own currency and is willing to let its currency depreciate can never go bankrupt. Okay. It can sort of print its way out. Modern monetary theory is something different. Banks create money out of thin air at all times anyway. Okay. Banks have an asset and have an asset side and a liability side. They can book anything on the asset side and then credit somebody with that. That's what they do with a loan. That's how they credit a loan anyway. A bank does not need to actually attract a deposit before it makes a loan. It can make the loan and then attract deposits per se. So, but modern monetary theory is something else. I can go into a long discussion on modern monetary theory. I will take a whole episode of Econ Salon where I explain modern monetary theory, its roots, what it is saying, etc. A different thing altogether. Okay. So, Master Chief says, congrats on your ML algorithm. Thank you. We'll sort of publish something using it soon. And then we'll publish some more stuff, and you'll yourself see the power of our algorithm. Kumar Mangalam Lamboria, any updates on MPA TGM development and production? Oh, by the way, if anybody is interested in our algorithm for commercial use, you can send a mail to geekatlarge1618@gmail.com. Kumar Mangalam, Lamboria, any updates on MPA ATGM development and production? I think you'll see it. You'll see some LSP orders for that as well soon. And then KM Lambodia asked timeline for Gandivar production, I think in the next 2 years. A tremendous mind friend claps, thank you. Vivan Malhotra says, Vivan Malhotra, okay, whole bunch of questions are there. We are running out of time now. We've already run out of the hour, but anyway, I didn't answer a bunch of questions in the beginning. So let me circle back to that. Vivan Malhotra, DDR software sounds impressive. Hopefully, it is built with scalability in mind. Good luck to team DDR. Yes, yes. It's completely scalable. It's proprietary. We tried some 37 sort of iterations before we settled on the one we are currently using. And the results are extremely encouraging, if you like. Vishwajit Panda. And see, and we can, it's very scalable, and it can be, and you can really turbocharge it if you have enough computing power. You can start getting results in practically real time with our algorithm if you have enough computing power. Vishwajit Panda, enough GPUs. Vishwajit Panda, for 6th generation engine, India should go with Rolls-Royce or Safran. Look, Safran, the level of comfort we have with the French is much higher than we have with the British. The British are part of that whole Anglosphere, right? That whole US imperium, basically. I don't know how much we can trust them. I really don't see how we can. With the French, we have a very different level of comfort. Remember one thing, that your main liquid rocket engine, your workhorse liquid rocket engine, came from there, right? The Viking, which ISRO, of course, made the Vikas and worked upon assiduously and has sort of, improved considerably over the years, besides, creating many variants. Several variants of that engine have been created. Several quite, what should I say, useful variants have been created. So, the same, so that was one kind of liquid rocket engine that came in then. And I guess now we can work on jet engine technology with them also. But of course, it has to be worth our while. It's not just because things have been done in the past doesn't mean they have to be done now. So I think both those entities are on the table at the moment, both Rolls-Royce and Safran. Mark, will the Kashmir issue be solved if you give the Americans a base in Kashmir? No. And by the way, I would not be surprised if the Americans have tried very hard to get bases in Kashmir in the recent past. I would not be very surprised at all. Both in the valley and in Ladakh, I would not be surprised if they have made such proposals, etc., etc. Prometheus, are the photo leaks of Mark II a security breach? And should an inquiry be done to avoid this as in the future? Look, I don't know where that photo came from, as I said earlier in the program. Were they really in the public domain? I don't know. Like I said, they are in the public domain now, but they were not, whether they were in the public domain to begin with, I don't know. Right? And should an inquiry be done to avoid, that is up to the government. Kumar Mangalam Lamboria, is Air Force happy with the CATS Warrior? Let's see. Has the Air Force ever made a comment in favor of the CATS Warrior? Have you ever seen it in any Air Force display or anything? So I think that should answer your question. Let's see how it goes. Sam Dave asks, DRDO recently revealed that they're working on airborne direct energy weapon. How will this be feasible unless we have a very powerful engine? Well, it will obviously be based on an imported sort of transport or passenger aircraft. And it can be done even with existing systems, depending on what kind of wattage you want from the airborne DEW. In fact, I'll write an article on this. Let me write an article on this. I'll examine both the A-60 Sakal echelon effort of the Russians in the Cold War and the Boeing airborne laser. I'll examine both. Right, both Sakal echelon and the Boeing ABL, both. And I'll say what are the issues, what are the power management issues, what are the general issues with sort of collimation or whatever that you face when you base it on a flying platform, etc. Madleon 81. We are lacking seriously in blocking of social media narratives can be used for recon to mandate of cyber command. Yeah, it should be mandate of cyber command, but I think it should just be the mandate of our foreign collection service. They are quite sort of capable in this domain, as they are in many other domains also, and they should be the ones looking at this. They, and of course the domestic intelligence service as well. Kumar Mangalam Lambodia says, any update on HTFE 25 and HTSE 1200? HTSE 1200 is actually a tech demonstrator, if you ask me. Only one unit was ever created. And HTFE 25 is supposed to attain certification by 2028. Let's see if it happens. Its high altitude testing was done in Ladakh. Darsh Zube, sir, does India have thermonuclear weapons? There are way too many articles opposing this. Yeah, I know all those articles. It's okay. I think we declared thermonuclear capability. What is there, let us not unnecessarily get into details of. Some strategic targeting modeling has to be done. It will be done, I am sure. Can be done. The trains and planes channel. Is the use of paratroopers by the army a realistic possibility in high steep Himalayas? They've done it already. Where is the question of it being a realistic possibility? And even under blackout conditions, they've done it. Look, I have the highest regard for our para SF, our para forces in general. Nobody should doubt their capability. And the kind of things they did during the standoff with the Chinese is also commendable. Of course, the SFF also played a huge role, but they also they played a massive role in my view. It's another matter that, such missions and operations will not be revealed to the public for a very, very long time. And as far as the government is concerned, I don't think they will ever confirm that para-SF was ever used along the LAC. Neither should they really, if they are not going to do it, whatever. Okay, Arjun Kapoor asked, do you have plans to collaborate with other YT channels? I meant the sane ones. Yeah, we do collaborate with other channels. We are also bringing on board, military personnel who have worked on indigenization, who are passionate about indigenization. And I don't know how many sane YT channels are there in the defense space. Most of them seem to be looking to get hits, as many hits as possible, as many subscribers as possible, rather than talking about how things really are. So, Amit Kumar, where are we on Akash missile production? Quite well placed, if you ask me. Akash is a grand success. Thousands of Akash missiles have been built. So many launchers have been built. So many radars have been, associated radars have been built. And those have been improved over time also. You have Mark II of many of those systems now. You have the Akash missile also. The Akash missile itself has been improved over the years. You have a Seeker equipped variant now, etc. Vikasvi, can you do a special episode for Gandiva missile? I can do a special episode on air-to-air missiles in general. Okay, trends. What are the trends? What are the things to look out for, etc. Devdi Mukherjee, why Hawkeye 360 deal? Why not our own companies? Good question. I guess they want to go with whatever is already ready. But like I said, in the future, there'll be stuff from India which will be much better than this. Anish, where is our version of Palantir and Anduril in defense sector? USA defense startups should be allowed. They have robust ecosystem. Completely agree with you. But don't be surprised if you see both of those things in the years ahead. Abhi, sir, is government planning to force Airbus and Boeing to manufacture some components or make a final assembly line for commercial airlines? They should actually. They should force them. Okay, last few questions now. Pankaj Fadatade. Is that correct? Is that Fadatade? Right, it should be Fadatade or Fadatade. I'll say Fadatade. Pankaj Fadatade says, why Indian Navy destroyers are lacking in terms of firepower, for example. They only carry 16 BrahMos in VLS, some in VLSS, and 32-7 in comparison with Chinese American destroyers. Okay. First of all, they are not lacking. The BrahMos is a monster missile. Just look at the kind of missile. I'm not comparing YJ-21 on Type 55. Look at Type 52C, D, what they carry. According to our Navy, I've talked to people in the Navy, they don't see these as underarmed ships at all. These have 16 very heavy-duty, highly capable anti-ship cruise missiles in the form of the BrahMos. They have 32 highly capable SAMs. They have 4 AK-60Ms, 630Ms, They have that 76 millimeter system also, which can be used for air defense. They carry a whole bunch of torpedoes. You will find that the same mix is not there on all the Chinese Type 52 destroyers. Okay, some of them are lacking in one element or the other. And don't forget that two of those AK-60 630Ms will very likely be traded in the future for 32 VLSR SAMs. So then you will have 64, air-to-air 64 surface-to-air missiles on board as well. 64 plus 16 BrahMos. I think that's a pretty good layout for a destroyer of 8,000 tons. Atramentus mind frame. Where are we with the Desi IR guided CCM AM? Let's see where that goes. Have you ever seen an actual project mentioned anywhere about this? Anish, does per capita income have a effect like soldier quality and IQ like comparison USA, UK, China, and the India? I don't think it does. Fact of the matter is that the Taliban's, we all know what the Taliban's per capita income was, and we all know how cleverly they fought with all using the terrain against the Americans. And the Americans threw everything at them also, and had persistent ISR to boot, and a whole bunch of informants on the ground as well. And yet they could not manage. So let's look at that. I don't agree with such comparison. I'll tell you where it matters. It matters in a domain like sports in terms of how many sports can you be good at. If you are a democracy and your per capita income is not that high and your government has a whole bunch of things to spend money on, then what happens is a whole bunch of sports get neglected, because you can't really throw money at it in the form of a sports system like a communist country does. But using your sheer size, you can excel at some sports. Like in chess, you are now dominant because somebody put the money. Somebody who is a legend decided to give his time to developing chess talent in India. So that's one example. You've broken through in things like javelin, etc., and all that also. Cricket, of course, there's a huge industry backing it. Your hockey has also got back up to speed. You're still not be able to beat maybe Holland and Belgium, or maybe even Germany on a regular basis. But I'm sure one day India will reclaim its mantle in the near future. A whole bunch of badminton is a great example of how again somebody took it upon himself to make it happen in India and did. So as far as the Indian Army's infantry units are concerned, I think they are some of the best in the world. They are some of the hardiest professional soldiers you'll see anywhere, and they are willing to give their all. And I have seen it during the standoff with the Chinese also, along the line of actual control in the recent past. Mark, what's the status of Project Varsha, underground submarine base? I think you've seen what is there in the open domain. There's no point in commenting on it. Rakesh, why have we not come up with a standard VLS like Mark 41 or 3S14? We do have designs for that. Earlier it didn't make sense because of our ship design and the very varied nature of our weapon systems and all that. But now that, and which are of different origins, you would appreciate. But now that we are now going to induct more stuff that is, of the same kind of built by us, and the ship designs are also changing, and the requirements are changing, you'll see more of this. You'll see a common VLS, a standard VLS, vertical launch system. Anish, is there any ground penetration device to detect LOC underground tunnel? Let's not discuss all this. Ground penetration radars have been available for a long time. Gravimetric sensors are also available in the on the world stage. 007, I would like to see professional boxing grow in India. I completely agree with you. That is a sport that I can also abide by. Arjun Kapoor strongly recommend Indie Needle's channel for WW1, WW2, Korean War, all things related to them. Very comprehensive coverage of the conflicts. Okay, I'll take a look at it. Okay, enough for today. I'm now just going to circle back to the questions in the beginning and answer them. Kappa had asked, or do you think India has enough artillery to afford a conflict with Pakistan? Yes, it does. I think there are now almost 1,000 155 millimeter units. If you add everything, 180 Sualtem, some number of Sharang, some number of Dhanush, 410 F877B that were sort of imported at that time, 100 of those K9 Vajra Ts, 145 M777s. I think if you add all of this up, you will get to that 1,000 unit mark, right? So I think we have enough 155 millimeter artillery. Most importantly, we have tremendous artillery, 155 millimeter artillery shell production. We have considerable bimodular charge system production. We have considerable legacy ball bag charge production. We have all of that in place now. And on top of that, you have at least over 3,000 plus legacy artillery systems available to you: 130 millimeter M46, 122 millimeter D30, 105 millimeter IFG and LFG variants. There's enough artillery in my view. Okay. Chirayupa and then had asked, so is kinetic action delayed because of ALH issue, circuit to seater last? No, I don't think so. Arjun Kapoor, please give an assessment of all trade and IWT measures taken against Pakistan. I told you, over trade they have basically stalled. They are trying to stall indirect trade also now, something which has been rebadged and repackaged in some entrepot trading center. IWT, there are some 4,000 megawatt worth of projects which are on the anvil, but they'll take several years to be commissioned. Even now, I'm given to understand basically based on what I've read, that some amount of discharge can be sort of varied, but I don't know whether that is something the Indian government is really looking to do or not, because that's usually not how India approaches things. Chirayu Parekh, how many TELs does Pakistan have at the moment? Not as many as people think. Definitely below 100, I would say. Okay. Navy action this time, Saurav. Mark Osas asked. Let's see. I think I've answered the remaining questions. I'll have to now call it a day. I've gone on for a long time. Okay, there's some last questions, and these are the very last ones. Sarvanand Sampath says, thanks for doing this, Saurav. Right? How do you think Indian government is handling the narrative building and messaging post-Pahalgam incident response? It's trying its best, really. But the point is, you are faced with an errant neighbor which is being encouraged by superpowers to, do whatever it is doing. So, we have to think this through properly. Aditya, Devdi Mukherjee Kusha missile test when? You'll hear of it, I'm sure. Aditya, but the program is going forward. Aditya Kumar, Pakistan is positioning their wheeled SH-15 howitzers on the borders. How we can counter, as we do not have wheeled howitzers? Is a counter to a wheeled howitzer only a wheeled howitzer in today's day and age? It's like saying a counter to a fighter aircraft is only a fighter aircraft, as I said before. Those wheeled howitzers will be toast because our ISR is much better today. We'll take them out with a whole range of systems. And don't forget one thing, while, they may be able, they had a lot of troubles with these SH-15s, by the way. A lot of trouble. They are licensed producer, they export versions of the PLC 181. They had problems with the rammer assembly. They had problems with the breech block. Generally speaking, I am not very, many of them will be destroyed in any conflict. Arjun Kapoor, 130 millimeter super accurate, people swear by them. Yes, they are. As field guns, they are good. Ujjwal Sharma, any update on UVLSs? I think I answered this right at the end. Arjun Kapoor says, awesome session, thank you. The trains and planes channels, thank you for this DDR episode, should increase the frequency. I'll try to, but I have a whole bunch of other things to do as well. Aditya Kumar, PL-15 versus Astra Mark II, I answered this. Last question, Master Chiefs, the thoughts on atomic demolition museums, Himalayan passes to deter the PLA. This is another thing I will write an article on. There's an old paper about, using atomic demolition munitions in passes between Laos and Vietnam. I think I'll take up on that and write something. Okay. Thank you for this edition. Thank you for tuning in. I think we had a pretty decent episode today. I think I answered most of your questions. And we live in tumultuous times. There is a crisis underway. All Indians must stay united, not unnecessarily create fissures between themselves. Is something that I've said in the past also. I'm saying it again. Okay, you will be surprised who is your enemy. You'll be surprised about who can help you and who may not be able to help you. So always be clear about things. Take things as they come. Right? Jai Jagannath, Jai Hind.